Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to each one of you present here. Esteemed dignitaries, respected faculty members, distinguished guests, dear participants and students. On behalf of St. Joseph College of Law, I'm Kanchan from Second LLB.
I'm Saifi from 3BA LLB.
We extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to the National Conference on Gender Justice, Contemporary Issues, and Emerging Challenges. Today, we gather not only to deliberate, but also to inspire, reform, and transform.
Let us begin this auspicious event on a harmonious note with a song representing women and the strength in the present time.
ಯಾವುದು 4 5
अब मैं खुद से अब मैं हद से जो चाहे कर ले जमाना अब मैं जिद पे अड़ी अब मैं खुद से अब मैं हद से जो चाहे कर ले जमाना अब मैं जिद पे अड़ी कर दे भाग के जाए अब मैं पीछे पड़ गई हूँ मैं तो मेरे चलूंगा मंजिल से मिलके रात बिता दो खत में काटे अब मैं जड़ से उतर गई हूँ अब मैं तेरे तक हूँ अब मैं सर पे चढ़ गई हूँ जो चाहे कर ले जमाना मैं अड़ गई हूँ अब मैं खुद से अड़ गई अब मैं हद से बढ़ गई हूँ जो चाहे कर ले जमाना अब मैं खुद से अड़ गई हूँ ये इंसान से ना तो अपनों से ना अनजान से ना हार जीत इंसानों से
Thank you, music team, for such a powerful performance.
We now invite our esteemed dignitaries to kindly come forward for the ceremonial watering of plant, a symbol of growth and nurturing and new beginning.
Thank you, dear dignitaries, for gracing the ceremony with your presence and participation. Let this small act be a reminder of the roots we plant today for a flourishing tomorrow.
To formally open this gathering, I invite our respected principal, Dr. Pauline Kia S., to deliver the welcome address.
A very good morning to one and all gathered here. It is with immense pleasure that I welcome each one of you to the National Conference on Gender Justice, Contemporary Issues and Emerging Challenges, hosted by our college. As we gather today, we stand at a pivotal juncture in our collective journey towards realizing the full potential of gender justice. I believe that this gathering is not only an academic engagement, but a call to action, one that seeks to critically examine, challenge, and transform the barriers that still obstruct the path of women's rights, gender equality, both within India and globally. We're privileged to have with us today Professor Dr. V.S. Elizabeth, a distinguished academic and legal luminary from the National Law School of India University, Bangalore. Ma'am's contributions to the discourse on gender justice has not only shaped legal thought, but has also inspired countless legal scholars and practitioners in the fields of gender justice. We're deeply grateful to you, ma'am, for gracing us today. Welcome to Cambridge. The theme for today's conference, Gender Justice, Contemporary Issues and Emerging Challenges, is particularly timely as we witness an evolving global and national landscape where gender inequality continues to be a deeply contested issue. Despite monumental strides that are claimed to be taken in the legal frameworks that are designed to protect gender justice and uphold it, we find that the road to it remains fraught with challenges that are both structural and societal. The challenge is not merely one of law, but one that encompasses societal attitudes, cultural norms, and political will. One cannot ignore the intersectionality of gender justice. The issues confronting women in particular cannot be viewed in isolation, but be understood in relation to factors such as caste, class, ethnicity, and geography. The emergence of new challenges such as cyber violence, online harassment, and the lack of access to healthcare, especially reproductive healthcare, represents a complex set of issues that demand urgent attention. Dear students, it is our collective responsibility to not just advocate for legal reforms, but also ensure that these reforms are implemented effectively. Today, as we come together as a community of scholars, students, practitioners, and activists to engage in critical dialogue, to share knowledge, and to pave the way for actionable change, I encourage all of you to participate and approach today's sessions with an open mind, to listen carefully to the voices of those who've been working, perhaps on the front lines in gender justice, and who have scholarly expertise in the same. Let us remember that the fight for gender justice is not merely a fight for equality. It's a fight for dignity, for freedom, and for fundamental rights of all genders to live without discrimination or violence. As we engage with these issues, let us be driven by the knowledge that the work we do today will have a lasting impact. Once again, I welcome you all to today's conference, and I hope you will have a learning experience today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your insightful and encouraging words.
It is now my privilege to welcome our respected director, Father Gerald D'Souza, SD, to share a few words and guide us into the heart of today's theme.
Good morning and a warm welcome to this conference. As we have seen the theme, gender justice, the issues and challenges, I'm a little surprised by the composition of the participants in this conference hall. Majority of them are women. It has got a presupposition that for gender justice means it is meant for women, apparently, just like that. I think it is more needed for men than women. Today, if you need to anywhere realize that whole concept of gender justice, this issue has been discussed and discussed, and we know it is a very complex issue. We as law students may try to look at the issue from a legal dimension. I firmly believe this is one of the areas where we can think about it, and this can be only one perspective. If gender justice has to be realized, I think it requires a multi-dimensional response because it is so complex. We cannot restrict it to one area or one field. We cannot put this gender justice issue in one pigeonhole. We look forward for a systemic change. I don't think laws alone, legislation alone will bring about that change. I think more than that, cultural transformation is the need of the hour. Our cultures, our childhood, our stories, our myths, all lead to kind of normalization of discrimination that is gender-based today. And the sickness that we have in our country and in our society is we start to either internalize it or we try to normalize it. I think that is the danger. If you normalize this gender-based discrimination, I don't think we can move any further. Therefore, I think that how discriminatory system gets normalized in a society, that we need to study more today and reflect on that part. Secondly, I think we require openness of our mindset. All that begins in our mind. If you are not open for change, if you are not open to relook at our worldview, I think change will meet with a lot of resistance, and change will not be easy at all. And I believe both the genders are influenced by patriarchal system today. Therefore, that system needs to be understood, its ways of functioning and how it finds root in our psyche is what that matters today. Therefore, we look forward for a gender just society. Therefore, let us not be only a theoretical discussion we discussed today, and at the end of the day, we go back as any other event. No, this needs to be, we need to discuss with a great sense of responsibility that all of us are part of this process. If there is a discrimination, there is an unjust society based on gender discrimination, all of us are directly or indirectly, consciously or unconsciously. Therefore, this needs to be our pledge today that we will try our best to bring about that change. And charity begins at home. Therefore, the transformation should start from self. And I think we need to boldly and very courageously propagate for this change. That is, change is always challenging and very, very difficult. With this, I would like to thank Dr. Elizabeth for her presence, and she will guide us more with this topic, and she will throw light more how we can, in a contemporary society, how we can address this issue more creatively, constructively, and proactively. I'm also grateful for all the resource persons for joining us and guiding all presenters. I'm grateful to our research committee, Dr. Sukruti, Dr. Sresh, and Professor Lindsay for your hard work and planning, and all the student coordinators of the research committee, the volunteers, and thank you, students, for your active participation. As I told you, let this be a time of reflection, time of learning, more than that, time to understand our own responsibility towards a gender-just society. Thank you, wish you all the best, and God bless us all.
Thank you, Father, for your encouraging and insightful words.
Now, it's my privilege to introduce today's keynote speaker, Professor Dr. V.S. Elizabeth. She is a professor of history at the National Law School of India University, where she has taught since 1991. Her academic work has focused on feminist perspectives in law, especially on violence against women, women's rights, and feminist jurisprudence. From 2019 to 2023, she served as the Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu National Law University, Trichy. She currently holds several leadership positions, including President of the All India Association of Legal History and President of the Managing Committee of Equations. She also serves on the Academic Council of NLU, Odisha. Her research spans early medieval South Indian socio-economic history and contemporary legal issues affecting women, especially domestic violence and sexual violence. She has published widely, contributing to legal journals and edited volumes on gender, law, and legal history. Dr. Elizabeth has played a key role in shaping gender justice policy in India, including as a member of the High-Level Committee on the Status of Women and as a resource person at the National Judicial Academy. She has served on the multiple internal complaints and ethics committee for reputed institutions. With her vast experience in research, teaching, and leadership, Dr. Elizabeth continues to be a guiding force in the pursuit of justice and equity. I request Professor Dr. V.S. Elizabeth Ma'am to address the gathering with her enlightening words.
First of all, a very warm good morning to everyone, and special word of thanks to the research committee for inviting me to deliver this keynote address today. I'm grateful to Dr. Pauli, who has always involved me in some activity or the other at the St. Joseph's College of Law. It's a pleasure to be back here. And I must say a special word of thanks to Father Gerald D'Souza for his talk just before mine. Basically, he has told us how to solve the problem. My job will be here to kind of present the problem, analyze it, and how do we solve it? It's only with what Father has just told us, because without it starting with each one of us, and if we don't look at ourselves, within ourselves, and see where we are responsible for the injustice, for the discrimination that we see around us, if we don't make the changes with ourselves, with our homes, in each one of our practices, then there is no hope. In fact, that leads me just exactly to what I want to start with. These issues, I mean, I've been doing this for over 25 years now, gender justice. Of course, I've been teaching for much longer, but my work on gender has been about 25, maybe 30 at the most. And in all this time, it's like the same thing. We're talking about the same thing over and over again. So have any of the issues been resolved? Doesn't seem like it. Issues relating to violence, issues relating to education, issues relating to health, reproductive rights, safety of women, all of these have been topics that I have been talking about, writing about for the last 25 years or more. And we are back again on the same thing. So which clearly means that we haven't gotten anywhere near it. And now even as we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, Goal 5 is about gender equality. And while other goals, seem to be attainable by 2030, which is only 5 years away, gender equality seems to be still a very far away dream. I don't know if you as students are ever going to see it, even in your adult life being attained. So we are back again. But at the same time, it's not like as if new challenges aren't emerging. New forms of violence against women, which have been touched upon both by Father as well as Dr. Pauli, right? Online bullying, online sexual violence, and now we have AI. These are things which are adding to the already difficult position or condition in which girls and women have found themselves. So it's not like the problems that existed have been solved before we can look at the new problems that are emerging and say, how do we solve them? That is the underlying thing of what I have to say today. Second thing is, of course, in terms of solutions, law is an important means. But if law was the solution, then a lot of these forms of violence against women or other points of injustice would have all been solved long time. 75 years since our independence, 75 years since our constitution, and 1950. So again, 75 years since the UDHR, right? And nothing has very much changed. People do think, of course, that things have changed because you see a lot more women around. But what women face every day is pretty much the same things that they've been facing, that women before us were facing, along with, of course, the newer forms of violence. I mean, just recently in my neighborhood group, they shared a clip from a woman who said that she had gone to one of the sweet shops in Koramangala, and while she was using the restroom, she found that, somebody was out there. I mean, I really don't understand what kind of sick minds want to record women urinating or, whatever else we are doing in the toilet, right, in the bathrooms. But that is violation of our privacy. It's like, I don't think it's about what they are seeing as much as making women uncomfortable. You go into a bathroom, you can't peacefully relieve yourself. Right? You have to look around to see, is there a camera somewhere? Is there a mobile phone somewhere? I mean, it's bad enough that women don't have toilets in many places, but then where we do have, this is another thing. So it's just like you shouldn't feel safe. If you can't sit in your house, then know that this is what you're going to face. In other words, this is just a way of restricting women's freedoms. It's not about sex mostly. It may be a little bit about sex, but by and large, it is about power. It is about telling women, you have no business being outside your home. Get back home. Not that the home is any safer. With all the domestic violence and sexual violence, predators are right there in your house, right? But predators outside are telling women, don't get out. Stay inside your house. Deal with the men in your house, but don't get out. If you're going to get out and think you have the right to be outside, these are the consequences you have to face. Sexual harassment is not so much about sex as about power. Just give me a minute. So having said that, let me get to the more organized presentation to just make you think about some of the issues and go forward. What are the contemporary gender issues? Like I said, nothing much has changed. If you talk to your mothers, they tell you all this existed. Maybe talk to your grandmothers, they say it existed even before, right? More girls are out of school. Of course, fortunately, there are more girls who have come into school since our grandmothers' times. But when we look at the number of boys out of school and the number of girls out of school, there are more girls out of school. More women and girls are killed by people they know. Contrary to the idea that, it is some stranger that you encounter on the road or in an unsafe place, most of them who are killed by their own boyfriends, their husbands, their brothers, their fathers, uncles. These are the people who are involved in killing girls and women. The most reported crime against women, if you look at the NCRB data, it is domestic violence. It is on domestic abuse more than other kinds of violence. Women and girls experience more sexual violence. This is to make it very clear. We are aware of the fact that boys and men do also face sexual violence, but disproportionately large number of the victims or survivors are girls and women. Women do more unpaid work. I mean, I myself am a classic example of that. I'm a professor at the National Law School. I have, served in various kinds of positions, but I am the prime caregiver of my parents. I have a brother who doesn't have to do anything at all. I'm the one who's taking care of my elderly parents. And I find that in my circle, it's my female friends who are doing this as well. And so if educated women are doing this, just imagine the condition of women who are maybe educated, but who are homemakers, or women who are not educated, who are in rural areas or in the lower income groups. primarily it is women who are caregivers. If there is a sick person at home, it is a woman who is taking care of that person. If there are elderly in-laws, it is a woman who is taking care of the elderly in-laws. The men go out to work, so that's a big job that they're doing. So obviously they cannot spare time to take care or even relieve. You cannot imagine. In fact, one of the things I want to write about and which is not written about much is the impact this caregiving has on the women who are doing it. You cannot imagine, forget the physical, right? It is also about the emotional, the mental, the psychological impact it has when you're taking care of elderly parents or sick people at home, right? So disproportionate amount of women are doing a lot of unpaid work. Childcare. Both men and women have children, but it is a woman who lands up having to take care, having to sacrifice her career, in spite of the fact that she might be qualified to be an engineer or a lawyer or an executive somewhere. It is women who sacrifice their careers. Along with that is, of course, all the domestic work. Washing, cleaning, mopping the house, everything. It's largely women who are doing this. Even when we have domestic workers, then again, largely women, of course, they get paid for it, which is not in proportion to the kind of work that they do, of course. I would always say, the intellectual work gets disproportionately more money than the physical labor that a lot of people actually carry out. In fact, I used to feel really, really embarrassed when I was Vice Chancellor at Trichy, because, the women housekeeping staff were out there in Trichy's hot sun, sweeping the entire area, cleaning, watering and everything. Whereas I was sitting comfortably in my office, could have had the AC switched on. And for that, they did not even get 1/10 of what I was earning. So that really always made me extremely embarrassed. But that is it, right? The kind of work that women do, a lot of the work that women do is unpaid work. And it's mostly women who are doing the unpaid work. Cooking again, we'll have master chef who is a man. But I doubt he goes home and cooks. The person who cooks will be his wife or his mother or whoever else is there at home, right? So women do most of the cooking. Transgender and gender diverse people face more discrimination. And very often, again, some of the discrimination that trans men face, even trans women face, lesbian women face, is consequently due to the low status that women have in society. Right? So when women have a lower status in society, when women are discriminated against, women who are not comfortable, who are trans men, are targeted. Men who are trans women get targeted. Lesbian women get targeted. Not to say that homosexual men do not get targeted and are not subject to violence. Of course they are. Again, because they're not fitting in with the gender stereotype. Men are supposed to, want women. Men are supposed to have sex with women. But the idea that, men want sex with men completely goes against the patriarchal idea of what a man should be or who he should desire. So it's got to do with the patriarchal norms, the patriarchal structure in which we are living. Consequently, the discrimination and the violence they face is horrifying. So it is not just discrimination, it's also the violence that they're subjected to, which is oftentimes much more than any man faces in any context. Women are sexually harassed at work more often. By and large, sexual harassment is about women being sexually harassed. We do, of course, have here and there some examples of men who are subjected to sexual harassment. Again, most often it will be other men who are subjecting them to sexual harassment. Not to say that there aren't here and there some women who subject men to sexual harassment, not denying that at all. STEM jobs are gendered. STEM education itself is gendered. Caregiver jobs, I've already told you. Women experience worse mental health as a consequence of all the burden of, keeping the home, the family, the workplace, and, personal issues together. Women experience worse mental health. Women get worse health care. COVID was a good example of that. All the COVID vaccination was tested on men. They had no idea what the effect on women's bodies would be. Because women's bodies, because of the reproductive difference there is, have different, effect. And they didn't even think about testing it on women till there were adverse effects, and then they went back to the lab to try it out. And a lot of such scientific research is gender. Even heart attack. Nobody ever thought about women getting heart attack. So the entire classic thing was, the classical heart attack thing is your chest will pain, your left hand will pain, you'll get pain in the back. For most women, it is silent. It's either a simple pain here in your jaws or in your upper abdomen, like a lot of diabetic people have. And consequently, nobody thought about it. And women suffer heart attacks once they have hit menopause, because estrogen, which keeps them kind of safe from all of this, is no longer being produced by the body, or being produced so little that women become vulnerable to heart attacks. And people weren't studying this. A number of such healthcare issues you can find which are very, very gendered. Paternity leave, of course, is stigmatized. So we do have, 15 days of paternity leave doesn't take care of a baby that is just born and, is growing up. You have countries like Germany where they give a year off. Either spouse can make use of that leave. And very often they balance it out by saying which is the spouse who is earning more. And oftentimes it will be the man who is earning more. So he goes to work and she still ends up as, having taken the leave. But at least they have maternity leave for a year, of which a woman's body needs about a year to get back to, what it was before its pregnancy. And one other point that I haven't put down here but could come under healthcare is reproductive health. It is not a surprise that birth control, the kind of birth control available to women, is all invasive. Whereas for men it isn't. It is just a matter of a condom. And women's condom is also available, but it is much more expensive. So what do you have? The pill, which completely upsets your entire reproductive cycle. And then when you want to get pregnant later, really, really difficult. Other alternative is abortion. And repeated abortion means it leaves scar tissue, and then when you want to get pregnant, it doesn't happen. Not that repeated abortion by itself is not problematic. The other kind of birth control is your property, which is again to be inserted into your body, and you can't insert it, you can't remove it. And in a country like us, where we are obsessed with the birth of babies, and we think it's more babies that cause our poverty, it means that once a doctor has put it in, will not remove it even if you don't want it. And sometimes it causes infection. It has all other kind of problems. And women are all silent sufferers of all of these consequences. Right? So these are just some of the top of the head issues that are still there before women and before our society. And I'll reiterate another point that Father made. Right? This can't be about women fighting for justice, gender justice. We've been doing that for the last 75 years or more. Actually, if you look at the women's movement from before that. And the fact that we haven't gotten very far in this fight for gender justice is because it's been a lonely fight. If men don't buy into the fact that this is unjust, it is unfair, and that it is wrong, then you cannot possibly succeed in this fight. Some of the statistics just quickly, since I'm really running out of time now. 23.3% of women aged 20 to 24 who are married or in a union before age 18, which means child marriage is very much still existing. And just now we had Akshaya Tritiya, and the newspapers were saying that a lot of child marriages were formalized during this time. That is India for you. So which is why sometimes we get fooled, by all this talk about India is going to be the number 3 economy in the world, etc., etc. Fantastic for all those who have money, right? But it isn't at all making a difference to the vast majority who have no control over that kind of money. It hasn't made a difference in their lives. If children are still being married off, imagine that. If you sitting here in the hall, how privileged you are that you weren't married off when you were kids, boys and girls. Because Akshaya Tritiya, it's little boys and little girls being married off. I don't understand. On the one hand, we have some of the greatest technology in the world. so much of scientific advancement. And on the other hand, this blind, superstitious belief that somehow all these stars coming together or whatever it is that Akshaya Tritiya is, that is a sacred day on which people should get married, not people, children should get married. How do we believe that? And also be scientists, on the other hand, is something my brain hasn't still been able to fathom. But that is it. And as of February 2024, only 14.7% of seats in parliament were held by women. And of course, so wonderfully, we now have the act which says 33% reservation for women. When is that going to happen? Maybe not in my lifetime, because we need to redraw the constituencies. And you know already the objection from the South about the redrawing of the constituencies. You do good and you get punished for it. It's like, you do good in your subjects, get the highest grades. And we are going to tell you that, no, you can't be in line for the job. Please step aside. All the people who are so bad because they've been having a lot of fun, now they are all going to get the jobs. We are going to ensure they get it. That's the punishment South Indian states are going to get. Consequently, women are going to suffer because it's in the South that most women are educated. Most women have positions in politics. And if that's going to happen, whenever that is going to happen, right? So as of now, imagine in parliament, there is only 14.7% women. When you convert that into numbers, it is even more pathetic. 2018, 18.4% of women between 15 and 49 said they had been subject to physical and or sexual violence by a current or former intimate partner in the last 1 year when the survey was done. 15 to 49. This is not to say girls below 15 or women over 49 are not subject to violence, sexual violence even. But this is the figure that we have for this group of people, 18.4%. Female work participation rate has slowly increased. But again, if you look at the recent reports that we have, Foxconn in Tamil Nadu, right? The salary the women are earning is about 20,000 rupees, not bad. But you know the conditions? Married women, they don't want. So married women are being discriminated against. And what about the women who are working? Trade unionization is forbidden. And if the new labor codes, which have not yet been implemented, but which have been drafted, if you start exploring that as law students, you will see that labor is no longer being protected. It's all about ease of business. At the cost of who? At the cost of the labor. And you may have already been reading about the middle class laborers, right? Those who are working in IT industries, who talk about the difficulty in trying to have a work-life balance, that they earn well, but they can hardly afford to live well. So imagine people who are at the lower levels, and when they are women on top of it. As it is, the number of women who are out in the workforce is disproportionately small. And most of those women, 90% of the women who are in the workforce are in the informal sector, which means protection of the laws that you study in labor law is not extended to them. So when we talk about all the laws that are there, because that's one of the backlashes we keep receiving against women, so many laws to protect women. The point is that those laws are not available for 90% of the women who are in the workforce. And this total number of women in the workforce itself is about 27.98%, which means the majority of women are not in the workforce. And why are they not in the workforce? Because they're all either unpaid labor or they are caregivers. So if we were to liberate women from this, if society and the state were to have policies which take care of those things which make it impossible for women to be out, because increasingly we're having an aging population. What are we doing about them? How are we engaging them? It's not like, you were 60, 65, you retire and you become senile or you have dementia. No, their minds are still perfectly fine. Health may begin to deteriorate, but they've all got good minds. What are we doing about catering to that? That's going to be another problem that we're going to have. And again, within that aging population, women suffer the most. Women who don't ask for anything, generally speaking, in the house. You look at your father and mother and see who gets what they need and who articulates what they need. And then as they age, look at how we treat an aging man as compared with an aging woman, who gets attention in terms of health, in terms of, recreation, in terms of engagement, anything. And you will find that again, the aging women are the ones who are largely neglected. And again, I suppose that's another topic for another day, is looking at how society, deals with the changes that are happening in our, in the world today. The fact that we have an aging population, and recently from Kochi, they were reporting they have 722 old age homes, and they couldn't find place for one old woman. Why are so many old people in aging homes, old age homes? As a society, we have pride ourselves in all kinds of, nonsense, saying this we are, that we are. But all these values have gone. We don't take care of our aging population. We don't take care of our parents, our grandparents, very comfortably put them off in an old age home, not seeing what's going on there and how they're being impacted. But again, like I said, that's a topic for another day. Share of the female labor force outside the workforce due to care responsibilities, 53%. Now, these are the sustainable development goals and the targets they have set. So I have given you the problems that are there. And this is what you have to do in order to attain gender equality. They've been working at it since the SDGs came out. We have 5 years to go and they're like completely at a loss. How are we going to attain it? And some of these things they're saying will take us 300 years. Can you imagine? So that is the extent of the non-participation of society in ensuring gender justice. That while many of the sustainable development goals may be attained, gender equality is not going to be. And what society also doesn't realize is that when you don't ensure women can access their rights, society as a whole suffers. Is that much of economic gain that is being deprived, and that much of wealth that is being invested or has to be spent if you have to deal with women who are subjected to violence, either in the hospitals or through the legal system, etc. Right? So I'll just go through that. I don't need to explain it. I think it is self-explanatory. End all forms of discrimination against all women and girls. Eliminate all forms of violence against women. Without eliminating violence, women are not going to get out there. Eliminate all harmful practices like child, early and forced marriage and female genital mutilation. Recognize and value unpaid care and domestic work. By how do you do it? Provision of public service, infrastructure, social protection policies, promotion of shared responsibility within the household and family as nationally appropriate. Ensure women's full and effective participation, equal opportunities for leadership at all levels of decision making. And it actually starts with home, even with your own individual life. Anything that impacts a girl or woman, they must have a say in it, just like boys and men should have. Where I study, what I wear, what do I want for recreation, for entertainment, where do I go, what do I study, all of those things, where do I work, everything. We must have a say in it. And if we don't have a say in it, then how are we possibly ever going to be empowered? So long as you can't make those decisions about your life, when to marry, who to marry, when to have a baby or not to have a baby, how many babies, how to space them. If women do not have a say in all of this, you can't talk about women's empowerment at all. Ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health. Undertake reforms to give women equal rights to economic resources, as well as access to ownership and control over land and other forms. A lot of property is still in the hands of men, or it is jointly held, not so much, in the names of women. And then when there is domestic violence or there is divorce, then the women are left high and dry, despite having contributed to the household earnings and savings. Enhance use of enabling technology. Adopt and strengthen sound policies, enforceable legislation for promotion of gender equality and empowerment. This is what all of you would be involved in. In terms of the progress, this is what the UN Women and UN DESA have to say. More than 340 million women and girls will still live in extreme poverty by 2030. This is the progress made thus far. It's saying that more than 340 million women and girls will be still living in extreme poverty by 2030. Next generation of women will still spend on average 2.3 more hours daily on unpaid care and domestic work than men. Even if you make some progress in men entering it or government does something about it. Close to 1 in 4 will experience moderate or severe food insecurity. No country is within reach of eradicating intimate partner violence throughout the world. The US, Trump with all his bombast and everything, no closer to eliminating intimate partner violence. They shoot them. They shoot their wives. They go tracking their wives across state borders. This is a real reality there. Just as much as, of course, here women don't cross any borders, so all you can do is deal with them within the house, right? They shoot them there, we burn them here. Or they go and drown themselves. A lot of women, you might read this in the paper and then, just casually go and wonder what's wrong with her. Why did she jump into the canal or the well? In the villages, they find that is an easy solution. And they do it with their children. They don't want to leave their children behind to be harassed. So they drown the children and then they jump into the canal or the well. This is, an everyday reality. So we are no more closer to ending intimate partner violence than when we first began. Growing vulnerability brought on by human-induced climate change. So the way climate change impacts women is different from the way it impacts men. So it impacts everyone. But women always get impacted disproportionately more because of their low status in society, because of their lack of access to opportunities, just like war. War impacts everyone. Men die, women die. But the way women are subjected to sexual violence and women having to deal with brothers, husbands, sons who are killed, is disproportionately more than the kind of impact that it has on men. So same thing with climate change. Women's share of workplace management positions will still remain below parity even by 2050, forget 2030. The gender gap in power leadership positions remains entrenched. World over, about 25% of women are in legislatures. Even in a country like the USA, which keeps pretending to be the leader in the world, the number of women in their legislature is almost exactly as in ours. And we have been, because of whatever reason, at least seen, one woman prime minister. We have seen a few women presidents, even if they're just figureheads. But US is yet to see, that happen with regard to its president, right? Fair progress has been made in girls' education, but completion rates remain below the universal mark. What are the emerging challenges, therefore? One is lack of women in leadership. If women are not there in the leadership, how do women's interests, women's concerns, women's issues get tabled even? So when you look at the laws, if you study all the laws we have relating to women, other than the DV Act, because that was drafted by a group of women, Senior Advocate Indira Jaisingh, Lawyers Collective, and then a lot of us women were involved in the drafting of that act. Therefore, it's one of the better acts that we have in this country for women. Look at all of the other acts. There are loopholes which make it very convenient for the acquittal of the men who commit crimes against women. Be it the sexual harassment law, be it, all the provisions that we have in the BNS, or all other special legislations we have, Dowry Prohibition Act. Even today, 1960 it was passed. This is 2025. Even today, you're reading about women who are killed or kill themselves because of dowry-related violence. So there's something wrong with that law, or the law is obviously not the solution. That we need to do what is necessary in order to deal with that. Otherwise, we can have this 75 years from now, at the turn of the century, same conference can happen maybe in the same place. Only the people would have changed. Because laws, if they are not being drafted based on the determination to end those problems, are simply there, giving false hope and not getting any closer to resolving it. Poverty and lack of economic opportunities. As I said, more than 340 million women and girls are projected to live in extreme poverty. And this is about 8% of the global female population is surviving on less than $2.15 a day. I don't think we even spend that little on one meal. Imagine having just $2.15 to take care of all your expenses. Workplace discrimination and inequalities. Only 61% of prime working age women participate in the labor force compared to 91% of men. In 2019, for each dollar men earned in labor income, women earned only 51 cents. So not only are there fewer women in the workforce, but even in terms of pay, salaries, there is a gender gap, right? And we talk about the glass ceiling. You can rise up to a certain point, and then they keep highlighting the number of women CEOs. Compare that with the number of men who are CEOs. So it might seem like there are more women. Of course, there are more women CEOs today. But what is the proportion to the number of CEOs overall? Right? And just a small example, I was vice chancellor of a law university. We have some 26 or 27 law universities, other than the private universities and the deans and etc. Out of those 27 or 30 national law universities, you know how many are headed by women? Even when I was there, it was about 6 or 7 of us. And now I have come out, and so have quite a few others. I don't know even if there are 3 or 4 women who are vice chancellors of the national universities, which is, a small little group. Imagine all the universities we have in India, all the public, private, and the public-private kind of universities, and then check how many women are. This is just in the education sector. And then when you look at the law firms that, all of you aspire possibly to get into, how many of these law firms have women as partners in positions of decision making? They have this token one woman on a board in the companies. What can one woman do in a board of, say, 15 or 20 people? She's just there for token. Unless she's an assertive woman and forces her voice to be heard, she's just there to mark attendance and to say, we have a woman representative. Which is why we need to look at workplace discrimination inequalities and an imbalance in unpaired care work, which I've already talked about, which is going to only increase, as I said, because the aging population is growing. So which might just mean just like women dropped out of work once they married and had babies, you might have women who are mid-level career who will be dropping out to take care of either elderly parents or in-laws. Social norms and cultural practices. Like I said, I don't know how in a world which is being so technologically advanced, we have this problem where we still hold on to blind faith, blind belief when it deals with women. We have all kinds of practices, religious institutions, right? This is separate from God. Believing in God is not equal to being participating in any religious practices. Religious institutions, which have largely contributed to reinforcing the gender stereotypes and patriarchal values and norms. And consequently, the cultural practices, which all harm women. Inadequate access to education and healthcare, food insecurity, violence against women and girls world over. Inadequate funding for gender equality initiatives, legal barriers and poorly enforced legislation in at least 28 countries in the world, lack of access to clean energy and sanitation. Till Prime Minister Modi came, people didn't talk about toilets for women. It's not as if suddenly, just 25 years ago, right, women suddenly needed toilets. Nobody did. If you don't have women in panchayats, if you don't have women at the state government level, legislature, or in the central legislature, who worries about it? Because especially in South Asia, men don't even need toilets. Right? So in a situation like that, why will they think about women needing toilets? And the impact it has on their health, reproductive health, on their kidneys and their bladder. You get urinary tract infection or you get severe kidney disease. I'm sure if we start taking statistics, we will find the disproportionate number of women with kidney diseases. And all because you're holding your urine in because you don't have a comfortable, safe place to go. In a lot of rural areas, women who are sexually assaulted is when they're going to relieve themselves early in the morning before sun rises or in the evening after the sun sets. And these are all men who are living in the same village, mind you. It's not like some stranger comes in and is hiding in the fields in order to attack the women. And that's the reason why they kill them, because they will recognize them. lack of access to technology. Tells you the whole problem we have with digital technology and this growing problem we're going to have with AI. All right, in conclusion, all I want to say is repeat what the UN Secretary General did. He said there are emerging three challenges. The growing backlash against women's rights. We had a few instances that were sensationalized in India of men who killed themselves because of the harassment by their wives and their families. And immediately there was a backlash against all the laws that we have to protect women against domestic violence. And they said it's because of those kind of laws that men are now being subjected to harassment, forcing them to kill themselves. Nobody has gone really into these cases of suicides to understand what has happened. I'm not saying that there may not have been harassment. Women are, like men, human beings. Women, like men, can be greedy for money. Women, like men, can also be harassers. The problem will be when we think women are, angels and they're divine goddesses, etc. Women are human beings, and there is no reason to be imagining that women, will be good. All women are good and all men are bad. Definitely not, right? But at the same time, we need to look at how many women are being killed every day or killing themselves and why that is happening. And we see this backlash against women's rights in the form of the expansion of the manosphere, right? What is the manosphere? An ecosystem of misogynistic content that is seeping into mainstream culture, shaping public attitudes towards women and fueling violence. You will see that in your online games, video games. Little children are being exposed to these kind of things. And then, of course, the movies and everything else, in addition to which is, of course, the new thing that we have with the AI, all of which are about violence against women, hating women, killing them, abusing them, brutally subjecting them to sexual violence. And this is not new. Earlier, it happened in books. If you read Henry Miller, their kind of books, you will find that kind of misogynistic violence. Now you find that everywhere, and this is more accessible than those books you had to choose to read them. Now it's like in your face, right? And that is the reason why I have put the rapid rise of artificial intelligence, marked by the UN Secretary General himself as an emerging area of challenge when we are dealing with gender justice. I leave you with these, and I'm having put the problem before you. Father has already told you how, if at all we're going to be able to solve it, we can solve it. It's up to you to choose whether you want to be part of the process of ensuring gender justice so that you will not be like me 20 or 30 years from now, participating in another gender justice conference and possibly repeating all that I have just said. I hope that it will be a better world, though of course even the UN isn't so confident. It's not looking at 2030 or even 2050 as a possible time by which things will change. But let's hope by the time that you have children and they grow up, the world would have changed. At least some of these problems would have been ended forever. New problems might emerge, but can we at least solve the old ones, end the old ones? That is what I hope that you will be thinking about in terms of how do we solve it, and not just participate in this conference as something to put down in your CV and say, I went to that conference, I presented a paper. What did you do? It's more important that we walk our talk than only do a lot of talking. Very easy to do the talking. Trust me, I've been doing it for so long. It's making the changes that is more challenging and difficult. And that is where you will stand out as somebody different if you walk the talk and make that difference. If I, for me, when I look back as a teacher, I'm on the verge of retirement and an old woman, so, I end up talking so much. I'm at the verge of my retirement. When I look back at my life's journey as a professor at the National Law School, the thing that is gratifying is to say that through my teaching, through my walking my talk all the time, that I impacted many students, and the students whose mindsets were changed. People who came from a strongly conservative patriarchal mindset to ones who became progressive, actually fighting for gender justice, implementing it in their personal lives and outside. Not as many as one wishes could have had, but even to have that 1% change. That, is the way in which you can look at whether your life, your work has been successful or not. Not how much money you have earned, how many homes you have built, and how many fancy cars you have or where you have traveled. It is, has your life made that change? Even if one home, that violence can end, that is, an impact that you can take credit for and say, I did something, little wee bit, because like they say, every drop of water makes the ocean. So even if we can contribute to that one drop of water, we have lived our lives well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that enlightening and thought-provoking address. Your insights have truly set the tone for the day ahead. I now invite the dignitaries on the dais, Father, Principal Ma'am, and Vice Principal Ma'am, to felicitate the guest of honor.
As we conclude this inaugural session, it's my privilege to extend heartfelt vote of thanks on behalf of St. Joseph College of Law. First and foremost, we express our deepest gratitude to our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. V.S. Elizabeth Ma'am, for gracing this occasion and sharing such invaluable perspective on gender justice. A special thanks to our director, Father Gerald D'Souza SJ, for his constant support and guidance. We also thank our principal, Dr. Pauline Priya S., for her vision and leadership which inspires us. We also thank Vice Principal Ms. Shobha Hegde for her constant support.
Before we break, we'd like to capture this moment with a group photo. May I kindly request all dignitaries, speaker, to gather at the quadrangle for the group photograph. I request Ms. Blessy and Tanya to escort the dignitaries.
Refreshments are served in room 502 and technical sessions will take place soon after the refreshment. The session will start very soon, so please make sure you're there in the venue. Participants, please check the program schedule that have been shared with you and your assigned venues for each session. Volunteers are stationed to guide you. Also, I request the audience to join the speakers and dignitaries for the photography session in the quadrangles. Another reminder, 10:30 the technical sessions will take place, so please be there as per the venue schedule.
ಅಲ್ಲೋಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡು. ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಮೈಕ್ ಅಂತ.
Sure. Hello. Check one. 1, 2, check, check.
Just tell sir when you have to put it on the chat box. Keep your timer and let sir know to get it in the chat box. Where is your laptop? Okay, so in case, yeah, you use that. Sir, what is the email ID of this? So the casting is happening from there. No? What is this is for the PPT?
This is for the PPT.
Can
this
we
is-
use her laptop instead of this
For what?
for showing the PPT? In case the
PPT
online
they have to
presenters,
present it.
yes sir, in case they don't do it,
Ah.
Sukriti ma'am told we'll have to do it.
How will I project then?
I've already sent PPT in this.
Oh, you already sent.
Yeah, I've sent.
So if you open the link from this, you can join the meeting and she can do it, no, sir?
See, through only one laptop I can do it.
Okay.
It has to be projected.
Right.
And the Zoom, whatever.
ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾಗಿತ್ತಲ್ವ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಹೋಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ
ನಾನು ನಿನ್ನೆ ಇವರಿಗೆ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಹಾಕಿದೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ